How's it, Dan? Yeah, I think something really important I'd like to chat about, and I think it's quite recently actually quite a big thing in the news. But yeah, I think a lot of clickbait. The password future has finally arrived. It sounds kind of like something out of a Terminator's movie. But yeah, let's chat a bit about passkeys. Let's just quickly dive into what passkeys are for the audience so that they can understand it better before we go forward.
Sure. So passkeys, they're a new way to log into websites. All right. Instead, exactly as you said, instead of the old classic username and password, you set up a passkey for a website or an app, and you don't have to use passwords anymore every time you want to log into that. They work by using a unique digital key that only your device knows. So when you try to log in, your device confirms your identity to the website through a secure process, kind of like a silent, invisible handshake. You often just need to unlock your device using a PIN, fingerprint, or facial recognition, so biometrics. And then this way, there's nothing for you to actually remember and nothing for the hackers to steal. So the whole thing is simple and really streamlined.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, usually, so people might be thinking, passwords still don't have their place. I think they do initially when you're setting up your account for the first time, but then you're integrating it with passkeys, and that's the convenience factor, taking it from there so that you don't have to enter that every single time. And I don't think they're really anything new. They've been around probably for the last 2-3 years now. But they've been getting a lot of attention due to noticeable integrations within the industry. So yeah, Dan, obviously you've been within the industry for almost a decade now. Did you ever think this was something that was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of in the cybersecurity space, authentication and access is everything. It's the locks on the doors, and it was always one of the biggest conundrums to overcome. How do we get rid, how do we make it as safe as possible that those that are authorized to do so can get into areas that they need to? It's security 101. Keep the bad guys out, let the good guys in. But passwords were always a weak point in that entire thing, and how humans worked with passwords was always a weak point in your security program. So forever and a day people have been trying to figure out how we can stay safe online, how we can store our stuff online, how we can work online without passwords. And that concept has developed over a number of many years, and a lot of industry professionals now think that passkeys may be the answer to that, or certainly the closest we're getting to what they're calling a passwordless future. So it's a really interesting subject. I'm using them, our team is using them now as much as possible, and it's a bit of a game changer in the space, both from security and convenience, and something we can get into today.
Okay, and I think for as long as I can remember, really, one always needed a password, always needed a username. I think that's, like you mentioned, that's always been quite a weak point for any employee or any organization. But how are passkeys different to your traditional methods of logging in to any site or any other credentials for that matter?
Sure. So just the experience, the user experience, switching from the classic combo of your usernames and passwords to passkeys is a game changer for how the experience is for the user. No more passwords. Instead of remembering a ton of different passwords, your device will now handle the login securely. It's completely unique to you as the user. So it uses your device plus your biometrics, like a fingerprint or a secret PIN that you have, and it's simpler and safer. So it reduces the chance of phishing and hacking, since there's no password to actually steal. It's like upgrading from a traditional key to a smart lock for your digital device. So it's really taken it to the next step, and that user experience is a hell of a lot better as well.
And Dan, like you just mentioned there, obviously the biometrics and all of that, that is a method of MFA, but what's the difference between passkeys and MFA itself?
Passkeys and multi-factor authentication, or MFA, they're both about making your online accounts more secure, but they go about it in slightly different ways. So MFA, it's like adding an extra lock to your door, for example. You'll have your usual key, which is your password, but then you'll need a second key to get in, which could be a code sent to your phone or generated by an app. So that's your MFA. You've got two different ways. You need to have both of them in. So it's about proving that it's really you by using something that you know, like a password, and something that you have, like your phone. Okay. Passkeys, on the other hand, aim to get rid of the traditional key. They want to get rid of the password completely altogether. All right. So instead, they use a unique digital key that's stored on your device. So you don't actually know what that is, what that key is. All right. You have no idea what it is. It's just stored on your device. So when you want to log in, your device confirms your identity directly with a website or app using something you are, like a fingerprint or facial recognition, or something that you have, the actual device itself. So there's no need for you to remember anything or enter any codes anymore, which is really nice. So while MFA adds a step to the traditional password process for extra security, Passkeys replaces the password step entirely, aiming for a smoother and still very secure way for you to prove who you are online to your different websites and apps that you're using.
So Dan, let's say for argument's sake, your device, let's say an older laptop, right? Most of them don't have biometrics available. They don't have that software. They don't have the capabilities. What are the ways that passkeys would work on such a device? Is it through an authentication app? Is it through entering a code? How would that work?
For sure. So, there are still devices. I mean, most mobile phones now are going to have your biometrics, your facial recognition or your fingerprint. But more and more laptops are making this available, making this technology available. But if you don't have it, if you're using a PC that doesn't have it, using a laptop that doesn't have it, it's a very simple PIN code that you can put in. But it's that PIN code is to authorize your laptop or your computer, and unlock that. It's your device that's still talking to the website or the app. So the actual authentication is from your device to the app. And so you're either using facial recognition, or you're either using biometrics, or you're using that secret PIN that you've got.
Well, thanks for clarifying, Dan. And I think, yeah, we are always for technological advancements. I mean, they vastly improve our lives, and I think passkeys are a massive convenience factor, really. But surely with convenience comes some skepticism. And do you think there are any cons to having password or passkeys rather enabled?
Yeah, for sure. It's still early days. And in the world of cybersecurity, for every new technology that comes out, there's a million bad actors out there trying to figure a way around it and trying to figure how they can bypass it. So for sure, it's early days. We always want to embrace technological advancements like passkeys. It's fantastic. But there are caveats and stuff that people do need to be aware of. So firstly, one of the cons is device dependence. Passkeys, they tie your access to specific devices. If you lose your phone, it's not just your calls that are then MIA. Your digital keys that are stored on that phone, or on that laptop, are your basic keys to the kingdom too. So it's like misplacing your house keys, but for every single door in your life. So it can be a pain in the ass if you lose that device that you've set up the passkeys on. Secondly, recovery concerns. What happens if your device takes a dive, into the bloody pool, where you lose your device completely? or you lose access to it. So recovery options for passkeys are evolving, but they're not as simple as a simple password reset that we've come to get used to in the past. So you might need to set up backup devices, or a full recovery method, depending on who you're doing the passkey with, adding a little bit of homework to your digital life there. There is a learning curve as well. Yes, it's not, as we have technical or technological advances, people need to learn how to actually implement them. And there's a lot of resources out there, the different websites, the different companies that are now implementing passkeys and making it available. There are guides on how to do it. But, let's face it, we're creatures of habit. We're shifting from the age-old tradition of passwords to passkeys. This could confuse a lot of people. So there is a learning curve involved there. It's a new brew of tech that requires, a taste of change. Some people will, stick with the old. They don't like change. A lot of people hate change, and it's going to take a long time for people to adopt that. Next, on the con list, we got compatibility issues as well. So not every single website or service has yet embraced the passkey revolution. It's a bit like showing up to a party in fancy dress and everyone else is in casual wear. Like, I've been there.
Awkward.
So some places just, yeah, super awkward. Some places they're not ready for the passkey Joel yet. So how we can overcome that now is, your big companies, your big actors right now, your Googles, your Microsofts, they have embraced it. So if you are using single sign-on capabilities, using your Microsoft login or your Microsoft account or your Google account to log into all your different websites, well, then you can actually use the passkey to get into these through that single sign-on process. So on that login page, instead of putting in your username and password, you can just go, log in with Microsoft or log in with Google, and then you use that passkey technology for that compatibility issue. And then finally, some people complain about the security ifs and buts and security issues. So while inherently secure, passkeys do rely on the security of your device. So if your device is compromised, or if someone can spoof your biometric data, think, Mission Impossible, or, how they're going to get around that going, it's going to be interesting. It could be a backdoor into your digital life. So there is still security issues there because of that device. But in the grand scheme of things, where we're looking now in the cybersecurity space, passkeys are a massive step forward in making our digital lives more secure and less cluttered, with forgotten passwords and having to manage a million different passwords. But like any tech, they're going to come with their own set of challenges and considerations that we need to be aware of. A little bit of preparation and patience is going to go a long way in setting this up and starting to adopt this new tech.
Yeah, like you said, Dan, I think quite a confident or bold statement here is that passkeys are far superior to passwords. And I think one of the reasons for that is human error, as we know, is the leading cause of successful breaches or hacks. And that's predominantly because of social engineering attacks or phishing scams. And one thing that I've noticed while researching for this or getting ready for this podcast is that passkeys really they're not susceptible to phishing attacks. But if you had to give us a list, Dan, can you think of any other pros as to why you should enable passkeys?
Sure, yes. You've touched on the phishing bit, so I'll just expand on why passkeys are so good as a sort of anti-phishing tool, or very resistant to phishing. So, social engineering, like we know, is one of the key ways that people are getting scammed. People with data breaches, successful cyber attacks. We talk about human error, and one of those human errors is falling for social engineering. So you receive that email from somebody that you think or the account that you log into. They will then direct you to a login page for that account. And on that fake login page controlled by the cyber criminals, it will ask for your username and password. You very quickly type that in, you put that in, and bam, those guys have now got your username and password in there. So that's the phishing. You basically handed over the keys to that account because they asked you very nicely for it. So passkeys make this impossible because they don't involve entering any information. You don't know what that password is, so you can't hand it over. They don't involve entering any information that can be intercepted or tricked out of a user. So they're naturally resistant to phishing attacks, which is amazing. So unlike passwords that can be deceived out of users, like we spoke about with the different phishing attacks or spear phishing attacks with fake login pages, passkeys authenticate in the background without actually exposing any sensitive information. So even if I'm super vulnerable and believe everything that I receive, and somebody asks me very kindly for my password, I don't actually know what it is. I can't give it to you. So it's a great way around that social engineering piece. Next mega bonus is convenience. Everyone is after convenience. We want to save time. We want to save effort. Having to even, using browser password managers, using password managers like we've spoken about a ton. It's a pain in the ass. It's such a massive pain in the ass in setting up a password manager, but it's something that has to be done if we're going to manage over 100 different online accounts, like some people have. So the convenience is huge. Passkeys, they offer a smoother user experience than what we're used to. Users no longer need to remember complex passwords or go through the hassle of resetting forgotten ones. Authentication can be as simple as a fingerprint scan, a facial recognition, or just a really simple code into your device. So it makes life a hell of a lot easier. One of the big issues that we've got with human error is humans using the same passwords with every account. And we talk about it a million times. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. It's one of the biggest blunders, one of the worst behaviors you can have to expose yourself to cyber risk online. So we're constantly going on about it, but people just ignore it because, like we said, it's a pain in the ass to create unique passwords for every single account, and they need to put them on a password manager. So one of the cool things about passkeys is you set this up once. Okay, so one of the common bad habits, we've spoken about it. One password across multiple sites, big risk. Passkeys are unique across different services, so this risk is now eliminated. So it's a really, really good thing there. Enhanced security is a big bonus with passkeys. They're based on public key cryptography, meaning the secret isn't stored on a server where it can be stolen. So even if there's a massive data breach, the actual secret is not, they can't breach that, they can't access that. It's public key cryptography. I'd get into it, but I'm not smart enough to explain how that works right now. Okay. Only your public key is stored on the server, and without the corresponding private key on the user's device, it's completely useless to attacker. So this public key cryptography concept needs a public key and it needs a private key. The public key is on the company's server and the private key is on your device. And unless those two come together and talk to each other, they can't have access. So if the company is breached and their servers are breached, and for whatever reason, wasn't correctly encrypted, and the hackers get access to all of those public keys, it's completely useless to them because they need the private key on your device. So, that's the enhanced security bit there. Cross-device compatibility is a great bonus as well for this. So with cloud synchronization, passkeys can be used across multiple devices owned by the user, maintaining security and having that convenience as well. So it allows for secure authentication from any device that you own without the need for transferring sensitive data back and forth, different password managers, and accessing that, which is great. So all of these advantages we've spoken about, they make passkeys super compelling as an alternative to traditional passwords, enhancing security and really improving user experience. So hopefully after this little video, you can go and investigate how you can set up passkeys on your Google account, go set up passkeys on your Microsoft account or other accounts that you're possibly using. So it's It's great. It's amazing. I absolutely love them. We're using them. I recommend it to all my friends and family, and getting everyone to set it up there. So I love Passkeys. They're going to be something in 2024 we're going to see a much bigger adoption of in the security industry. It's going to be a big thing. So yeah, super excited to see that, and to see the positive impact it's having on cyber risk as well.
100%, and I think you explained that concept a whole of a lot better than I could have. So, but I think, like you said, yeah, it's a massive leap forward within the industry. But like you mentioned, it's still like the basics of password hygiene is still there. Never use your passwords, never share your passwords, and use a browser-based password or a dedicated standalone password manager. So I think those still go hand in hand with passkeys. So just putting it out there. But yeah, thanks, Dan. That's everything, and all the time we have for this episode. So yeah, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Cheers, everyone.